evening and welcome to your weekly brief. My name is Edith Kimani. Tonight, we begin a difficult conversation on Kenyans who feel alienated by both their leaders and fellow countrymen. These are men, women, and also children born, living, working, and hurting in the deepest marginalized areas of Kenya. Bottom Line is in Garissa this weekend, and our team will be joining me later to tell us why we should start paying attention to the other Kenyans. Now, Willis, the word master, is on standby in Kisumu County, and I have a list of interesting words for him to take apart tonight. And my guest anchors know everything about taking things apart. Theirs is an art form that involves tearing things down in order to create. Mugambi Nthiga and Maina Olwenya, two actors who you may know from Nairobi Half-Life and the numerous theatre appearances, will have their take on anchoring tonight. But that's all in a bit. Right now, we zoom into county matters with our first story this evening. And governors are saying enough is enough. Let's meet at the referendum. And as I said, this was a declaration of governors as they unveiled a 15-man team to spearhead their push for changes to the constitution. Now, the governors, led by their chairman, Isaac Ruto, said the executive and the two houses of parliament have shown determination to claw back on the gains of devolution, and nothing would stop them better than a vote by Kenyans. KTN's Samo begins Friday Briefing tonight with this story.
Governors have upped their tempo to push for a national referendum. In the eye of a storm from the executive and parliament, the county chiefs unveiled a 15-man steering committee to drive the referendum push forward. The governors say push has come to shove, and a referendum is the only redress to insulate counties from deprivation of its resources and mandate that is being clawed back.
We have made efforts, we have sat down, we have consulted, we have pleaded, it's not working. And therefore, it is up to Kenyans. These are things that can be done. We may not need to go that route if the following things can be resolved. But we are saying where we are now, we have reached the end of the road.
The steering committee will have Meru Governor Peter Munya, Bomet's Isaac Ruto, Nderitu Gachagua of Nyeri, Marsabit Governor Ukur Yatani, and Kiambu Governor William Kabogo, among others. The governors have also tapped a pool of 5 technical experts on different fields to advise them on moving forward the process. The technical team comprising constitutional lawyers, economists, and high court advocates. The governors say there is a deliberate attempt by the state and parliament to choke devolution, citing the presidential assent to the County Governments Act, allowing senators to chair county development boards.
There is deliberate muzzling of legislation, policy and regulations in a manner that does not walk away for devolution. Currently, we have a total of 23 laws that are retrogressive to devolution. If we are to go to court on each of these, we will take 7 years to settle these matters.
The county chiefs have identified 10 issues to be put in their referendum bill. The governors want county allocations capped at 45% of the recent audited accounts, strengthening of the Senate into an upper house with finality on decisions regarding county governments, involve counties in security issues, tightening impeachment laws they consider haphazard, establishment of loans and grants council to ensure equity in revenue sharing between the two levels of government, and have MCAs enjoy same privileges as the MPs.
The Council of Governors is keen to ensure that revenue sharing between the levels of government is fully grounded in the Constitution and thus leaves no room for political discretion or tokenism on the part of the political players today or in the future.
The intricate battle for billions for the counties has the Deputy President William Ruto weighing in. After the Senate adopted a motion to freeze the accounts of Bomet, Kiambu, Kisumu, and Murang'a counties, Senate arguing the respective governors failed to honor summonses to appear.
We have never refused to account. The point is, a number of counties, whenever they have been asked questions or they want clarity, we have sent our officers to the Senate with all the information. They chased away for Kisumu. They have chased, or the latest one to be chased away were from Bomet. Surely, do you want the information or you want Isaac Ruto?
Mimi nataka niulize senators na governors na wabunge wetu. Tushirikiane, tutafute vile ya kuwatumikia wa Kenya. Maneno ya kushindana nani mkubwa nani mdogo. Pesa ni nyingi, pesa ni chache. Hiyo siasa haiwezi kupeleka Kenya mbele.
While the MPs manage the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, women representatives overseeing the Affirmative Action Fund, and the MCAs responsible for the Ward Development Fund, senators are the newest political entrants into the county development boards. To reverse the latest move, the steering committee begins meeting MCAs to pitch for the referendum. Samugina, KTN.
Well, we've heard what governors are saying. They're saying that both houses of parliament, together with the executive, are working to claw back the gains made by devolution, and they now want a referendum. And that informs our big question this evening. We're asking you, do you think the governors will succeed in their quest for a referendum? Do you think the governors will succeed in their quest for a referendum? SMS your yes or no answers to 22155, fairly simple. Or you can reach us on Twitter. Our hashtag is Friday Brieffing, or reach me directly at Edith_Kimani. Nearly forgot my handle there. To other news making headlines this evening, and the government has released 1 billion shillings to alleviate hunger in areas that have been affected by drought. Now, Deputy President William Ruto announced the government's intervention when he visited Samburu County, which has been affected most by drought.
But a few photos taken by staff of humanitarian organizations in Samburu County, faces of malnourished children and adults that now depend on wild fruits for survival. The situation is dire to the extent that many families are going for days without food. This is according to the humanitarian organizations working in some parts of Samburu, Baringo and Turkana counties. We spoke to Thatcher Ngonga of World Vision, who has been traversing the corners of 3 counties.
But if you go to some areas of Samburu East, they spoke of eating wild berries, where they grind the berries and make a paste out of it, add some water, and they take it like forage. If we remain at this pace of implementation, there is likelihood of people succumbing to hunger.
Residents have now started receiving relief food from the counties and organizations, but they warn that if the situation gets worse, the supplies will quickly run out. It is estimated that more than 3 out of every 100 children are suffering from severe malnutrition, and the situation is likely to worsen since the dry spell is expected to persist.
What this means is that the 3% of the children are likely to die if nothing is done. The 17% of the children are likely to get worse and even are susceptible to diseases and other infections if nothing is done.
The national government today announced the release of funds to fight hunger in the counties worst hit by drought.
Serikali tumetoa wiki hii shilingi bilioni 1 ya kununua vyakula kwa sehemu ambazo ziko na shida ya njaa. Na baadhi ya vyakula hivi shilingi milioni 10 tayari. Tumeleta vyakula ya shilingi milioni 10 leo hapa kaunti ya Samburu. Vyakula hizi ziko hapa, zitagawanywa kwa wale ambao wanahusika.
No death has been reported yet in the regions currently experiencing hunger. Agnes Penda, KTN Friday Briefing.
Certainly good news for the residents of Samburu County. We go back to the row between governors and senators, which seems to have spilled over to the residents of Bomet County, who took to the streets over what they say is their senators' failure to defend their county during the Senate motion to withhold funds for 4 counties. Now, they did take issue with Senator Alfred Lassan for working against the governor, Isaac Ruto, and allegedly derailing progress in the county. Here's more on that story.
Business in Bomet town came to a standstill as angry residents held demonstrations against what they called the Senate's decision to deny the county funds to run its business this financial year.
We can even add and amend to remove the Senate completely in this nation. Yes. After all, we have the county assemblies who can do the oversight in a proper manner.
The irate crowd stormed the Bomet Senator Alfred Lassan's office, accusing him of working against the county rather than for the people that elected him.
We cannot elect somebody, we wake up at night to go and vote somebody, and then this person goes away, and we don't see him. After 1 year, he's returning, he opens an office, and the office is for malice.
The residents fault Lassan for being part of the Senate team that passed a motion to withhold funds for Bomet alongside 3 other counties. The Senate motion sought to have Bomet, Kisumu, Kiambu, and Buranga counties denied funds over what they say is refusal by the governors to honor Senate summonses to clarify on last year's expenditure. Local leaders of Bomet, however, say such a move will work to make ordinary Kenyans suffer.
Bomet residents actively participating in their county affairs, but they're residents of some counties in this country who don't even think they're Kenyans. They call themselves or refer to themselves as the other Kenya. And that's precisely where our bottom line team is this Friday, and they will be this entire weekend. Yvonne Okwara now joins me from Garissa to just give me a preview of what to expect tomorrow.
Yes, Edith, you know, it's usually the running joke, of course, that when you're going to Garissa, do tell them the Kenyans said hello. Sometimes seems funny, but I don't think it's very funny to the people here in Garissa where we are. And they're not the only ones that feel marginalized. From Kiunga to Mandera, Marsabit to Turkana, Loitoktok to Kwale. These are just some of the areas that do not feel adequately involved and do not feel Kenyan enough. And this is the conversation that we're going to be having right here in Garissa County. We are situated at the Nomad Palace Hotel, and this is where we'll be this entire weekend. And I'd just like you to take a look at some of the preparations for this discussion. This edition of KTN Bottom Line, we are talking about the other Kenyans. Just what does it feel like to not be involved in the everyday affairs, in the everyday running of the country, to receive newspapers later in the day than other people in other regions of this country. They may seem like little issues, but they are fundamental in the cohesiveness of this country. And this is what we'll be discussing here. We'll have local leadership, we'll have youth leaders, we'll have representatives from other areas that feel marginalized, like the Ogiek. And this is the discussion we'll be having tomorrow right here at the Nomad Palace Hotel. If you are watching us right here in Garissa, please do make a point of coming here at 6 p.m. Be seated by 6 p.m. so that we can begin our discussion at 6:30 p.m. We'll be taking a look at historical injustices, taking a look at where we are at now, and of course solutions as we move forward. We are here with our experienced team, a crew that you know covers issues and live events in the way only we can. We also have our experienced journalist, Ferdinand Omondi, will be joining us right here tomorrow. He has covered some of these areas that have been marginalized. He was there during the Tana River clashes. He covered Lamu quite extensively, as you will remember. Was also in Kwale covering the MRC. In addition, we have Muhammad Ali, whom you know for the Jichopevu fame, who has been around the country tackling some of the most difficult issues that we have in the country. So we are discussing the other Kenyans. How does this affect you where you live? You might be surprised, but it has that effect. These are Kenyans, and we must all live together. So the discussion, The Other Kenyan, on KTN Bottom Line will be on tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. So please do join us. The email address, bottomline@standardmedia.co.ke. On Twitter, you can start sending us your feedback. Please use the hashtag KTN Bottomline. On SMS, the number is 22155. Join us here at the Nomad Palace Hotel in Garissa County tomorrow from 6:30 p.m.
Well, thank you very much, Yvonne Okwara. We'll definitely make a date with you, 6:30 p.m. you said. And remember, you can begin that conversation using the hashtag that she mentioned, hashtag KTN Bottomline, and, you know, begin the conversation on the issues that she's brought up. Let's have a look at an issue that affects us nationally, but is a global issue, where the World Health Organization has declared Ebola a global health emergency. Now, the organization says the possible consequences of the spread of the outbreak could be particularly serious and has called for a coordinated international response to stop the spread of Ebola. This, as Uganda this evening announced that a passenger isolated of Ebola fears has tested negative. Wilkis Tanyabwa has more.
I am declaring the current outbreak of Ebola virus disease a public health emergency of international concern.
In the face of the declaration terming the Ebola epidemic an international emergency, international organizations and governments are now set to team up, trying to put to an end the deadly outbreak. The World Health Organization has called the epidemic an extraordinary event and warned that it constitutes an international health risk.
The committee's decision was unanimous. Its advice to me acknowledges the serious and unusual nature of the outbreak and the potential for further international spread.
The declaration of an emergency is expected to raise the level of vigilance on the disease.
The declaration of a public health emergency of international concern alerts the world to the need for high vigilance for possible cases of Ebola virus disease, but by no means implies that all countries or even many countries will see Ebola cases.
While Ebola is infectious and highly infectious in certain circumstances, it is an infectious disease which can be contained. Let me underscore that. This is an infectious disease which can be contained.
This coming as a big sigh of relief sweeps through the entire East African region after an isolated passenger in Uganda's Entebbe hospital tested negative for Ebola. The Director General of Health Services at the ministry in Uganda said the patient, who is a Sudanese clinical officer, was identified during a screening exercise on Wednesday at the Entebbe airport, where he had arrived aboard an Ethiopian Airlines flight. The patient had been working with the International Organization for Migrants in South Sudan and was referred to Kampala for treatment after he exhibited symptoms of hepatitis B. But authorities detained him after screening, saying his symptoms pointed more towards Ebola. The World Health Organization estimates that more than 900 people have died of Ebola in West Africa. The disease has spread from Sierra Leone to Liberia, Guinea, and recently Nigeria. Wilkista Nyapo, KTN.
Well, with the number of those who've died from Ebola inching ever closer to 1,000, KTN is certainly keeping an eye on that story and will continue to give you developments as they come. Back home, a widow in Nakuru is claiming that the Bahati constituency MP, Kimani Ngunjiri, has unfairly locked her and her children out of her land. But the Member of Parliament says he has legitimate claim to the land, having bought it in an auction. KTN's Kamche Menza has the details.
This is the land in which part of it, plot number 929 Bahati Block 1, the land at the center of controversy between Bahati MP Kimani Ngunjiri and a 68-year-old widow. Claim the MP has robbed her of her land. She displays documents including the land certificate, ballot number, and a number of receipts dating back to the 1970s, when she insists her late husband was paying for the land before acquiring it in 1983.
Baba yetu alikufa 1989 na alizikwa kwa hii shamba. Kulikuja wakati 1994 huyu Rokema Estate akakuja na akasema ati amenunua kwa mtu mwingine alikuwa anaitwa David Moshemi.
Hapa ni nyumba yangu. Mimi nilikuwa nikisema hata huru akunja aone.
The daughter says when they tried to follow up with the lands department, they realized their father's name was not reflected in the system. Instead, Rukima's estate was shown as the owners of the land. Rukima Estate Limited is linked to Bahati MP Kimani Ngunjiri.
Sasa tulijaribu kutafuta haki. Tulienda baka tukatafuta wakili. Sasa naye Ngunjiri alikuwa ameweka sasa wakili wake, lakini hakuna ile siku tushakutana kwa koti. Mwenyewe upande wa Ngunjiri hawakufika.
The family says the struggle has been on since then, as Ngunjiri promises to settle the issue but has never been forthcoming.
Akaambia mimi ninakupatia shamba na hakuna shamba mimi nilibatio na yeye.
A reconciliation meeting was held on Sunday when it was agreed that the family will be allocated a 1-acre piece of land at Wanyororo. But the family now says some information was added on the agreement paper after the meeting without their knowledge, a claim that elders who were present at the meeting have refuted.
Hii space ambao wazee hawakuandika chochote, wanarudi wakaiongeza wakasema ati bwana mheshimiwa hakuna shamba ambao wananyang'anyana. Na ati hao watu walikuwa squatters wa hili shamba. Ni sio ukori wa maneno, ni uongo mtupu.
That's a lie. That's a lie. This is the thing that I read to them and they agreed.
But the MP has dismissed the family's claims, insisting he bought the land through an auction and received title for 22 acres of land in 1992. Margaret Wanjiku's piece of land is part of the 22 acres he bought.
Baada ya mimi kununua kwa Mushemi kutoka kwa Barclays Bank, nilienda nikachukua loan kwa AFC and I paid that money and I was released my titles.
Ngunjiri says he so far has documents and that the woman did not present any documents to claim ownership of land during the reconciliation meetings.
Na kama kuna mtu anajua nimenyang'anya huyo mama shamba na ana haki na ana document, I'm ready to face the court of law.
Hatuna uwezo, hatuna nguvu ya kuweza kufikia shamba letu.
Well, from Nakuru town, we head on to Mathare, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission says that official campaigns for the Mathare by-election will end tomorrow evening at 6. The announcement came as former Youth Fund boss Evans Gorse Melango rushed to the Court of Appeal seeking to suspend the by-election scheduled for Monday until his petition is heard and determined. Patrick Amimo reports.
The Mathare constituency by-election has attracted 9 candidates, 5 sponsored by political parties and 4 independent candidates. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is in final preparations for the Monday by-election. The Commission has hired and trained 230 presiding and deputy presiding officers, as well as 460 polling clerks. Staff deployment and distribution of election material to polling stations will be done on Sunday.
Campaigns end tomorrow, Saturday, 6 o'clock. So we expect all the campaigns to come to a halt or to end exactly 6 p.m. Tomorrow.
All those voters who are registered in Mathare, come 11th of August, please come out and exercise your democratic right. Come out and choose the leader that you want to represent you.
Former Youth Fund boss Gorse Melango attempted to file an urgent case at the Court of Appeal to suspend the Monday by-election. This was after High Court Judge Mumbi Ngugi on Monday dismissed Melango's application to compel IEBC to include his name on the ballot as one of the candidates. Semelango filed his application at the registry, but there were no judges to hear it since they are on vacation. In Mathare, some aspirants eyeing the seat engaged in roadshows to rally support for their candidates, while others opted for a door-to-door campaign to woo voters. The campaigns have been peaceful so far.
Kuna wale watu ambao wamesimama, ijapokuwa wengine bado hawajaonekana, tunapata tu majina kwa posters, hatuwajui. Wale watu ambao wanajulikana hapa sana ni kama watatu.
Mathare hapa tuko na farasi wawili, moja na GM Wanjoy na moja ni K1 Kariuki. Kwa hivyo wafuasi ni lango wako 50-50 sasa hivi vile naona.
The electoral body says electronic voter identification devices will be used in each polling station, while transmission of provisional results will be done electronically from each polling stream. We sampled some voters' expectations.
Wachague kiongozi mwema, kiongozi mwenye shupavu, mwenye anajali wamama, anajali watoto, anajali wajane, mwenye ana ukabila.
Hii alama zote ni lack of enough security. So mwenye anaenda kuingia hakikishe security hapa iko sawa sawa. Hiyo ndio kitu ya maana sana hapa kama iko.
IEBC says it will deploy enough security personnel to ensure a flawless by-election. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Well, some very interesting views on the streets of Mathare. But on our big question this evening, we asked you if you think governors will succeed in their quest for a referendum. Remember, they're saying they want a referendum because they think that the legislature and the executive are working to claw back the gains made in the constitution with regard to devolution. Our SMS number is 22155. You can also reach us on Twitter. The hashtag to use is Friday Briefing, or speak to me directly at Edith_Kimani. We'll be right back after this short break with our guest anchors. Stay tuned. Residents learn to live with dangerous snakes in Baringo.
Tukiwa huko kwa shop zetu, tumeona hapa moto ikichomeka. Tukakuja bio. Ambulance ikaitizwa hii ya moto. Haijafika. Kabla tuposhe moto. Vitu tujatoa. Lakini vitu mingi imechomekea hapa. Kama hapa kuna food yanakuwa na bao mingi sana.
We're back on the brief with the guest anchors. They'll be joining us shortly. I'm giving them just a few more minutes to relax or either become extremely nervous. But first, I have a story for you about snakes, and this is one that I'm really icked out about. And sadly, it's the reality of having to live in an area infested with dangerous snakes, which has forced residents of Loboi village in Marigat, and that's in Baringo County, to get wiser. Now, get this, almost every homestead has a first aid kit containing antidotes for snake venom. Here's Kamche Menza again with their story.
The hissing reptiles abound in this area, thriving in the region's climate. Mostly they hide under these stones. The residents here have resigned their fate to sharing the environment with the snakes, even the poisonous ones. Most of the residents here say they have permanent scars, reminders of painful and near-death encounters with snakes.
Hawa nyoka ni kwamba huwa wanapenda kutembea kwa manyumba ya watu kutafuta maji.
Some of the snakes which are found here are the pafada, black mamba, and the spitting cobra.
At Chepkotoyan village, 11-year-old Bogoria Kangongo is still nursing a seemingly fresh wound from a snake bite. He was bitten 7 months ago at his home just as darkness was setting in.
Pila aliuma yeye, ikakuwa kijana ikakuwa creams kabisa na haoni na akavura. Tukatime yeye mpaka tukapata. Tukakundwa ile nyoka ingine kichwa kidogo na mwili ni msito kabisa na ni mrefu.
Others lost their body parts, while many more live with scars. They say the wounds from the poisonous snakes take time to heal.
Bona imekuwa imeathirika kabisa. Sasa kama sasa veins yote hapa imeisha. Sasa imeisha, hakuna kushika kitu na hakuna kukunjana.
And from the painful experiences they have learned to be ready. They store potent traditional antidotes for first aid, knowing it takes a lot of time to get a victim to hospital.
Siku sasa akikutemea mate sasa unaanza kufura. Unajua sasa upande tunakata kondoo damu tunapaka kwa mwenye amefuria ametemea hiyo mate.
Tunataka kama hiyo lab ya antivenom iletwe hapa Marigat ama iletwe hata hapa Bogoria. Juu nyoka mingi inauma mtu na huwezi jua ni nyoka gani.
For now, the residents are calling upon the government to enable them have easier access to the anti-venom, at least to enable them avoid the use of traditional ways as first aid, which in most cases have caused them more harm, leaving most of them with permanent scars, as well as shortening the compensation process.
Procedure ni kali sana. Unaweza tumia more than even 50% of the money of compensation money. Enda kwa kotini staki vitu mingi unaona hata umepona.
Hakuna process ambayo iko rahisi kwa hasa wakati unadhibitisha mambo ya kutaka pesa ya serikali. Lazima iwe na mpango.
Marigat District Officer of Health Robert Rono says the hospital receives at least 3 snake bite cases a month.
We have a challenge of supplies for anti-snake venom. Going by the cases is not adequate to cover the whole area.
Kamche Menza, KTN at Loboi, Marigat Sub-County, Baringo County.
I have serious heebie-jeebies after that story, and Kamche Menza is actually very brave to have walked into that territory knowing there's snakes that big. But right now, it's time for the guest anchors. How are you? You all look so unmoved by that story. Do you not fear snakes?
We fear nothing.
You fear nothing. Okay. This evening, I'm joined by 2 actors, Maino Luenya and Mugambi Thiga. Hey, I'm going to shrub your name this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And you might remember them from Nairobi Half-Life, which became huge. So let's start there. What have you guys done since?
Oh man, that question. please ask Maina. He's been very busy.
Why me? Why throwing the ball?
Because you've been busy.
Quite a number of things from commercial, TV, film.
Also, are you wearing a peg on your tie?
Yes. This is what happened. You see, whenever you see somebody amevaa suti, it simply means nguo zake zote ni chafu. And then the peg, since I was in a hurry, I had to find something to clip my tie.
To clip your tie.
So that it doesn't fall.
Okay, so you were saying after Nairobi Half-Life.
Yes, after Nairobi Half-Life, I've done several films. That is the arm of films. And then there's another film that I just wrapped recently by Spielworks. And then there's another movie that I'm supposed to be taking on very soon, but not in Kenya.
Okay, so how are you keeping up with all this? Because you're doing films and then you're in the theater a lot. You're constantly on the stage. Where do you find time to do all this?
Well,
you thinking,
if it's worth it, you can create time.
Okay.
Time is there. Just create it.
Is that the same for you, Mugambi?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we've found, you really have to exploit your talents once you're out there. I was in employment once, so I was working 9 to 5, and that was fine. Once you're in that security and that really nice, safe cocoon, you don't really explore the other things that you can do.
Okay, so then let's talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Cool.
So you had, I'm assuming, a well-paying job.
Yeah, it was pretty
And then you decided, okay, I'm done with this, and you threw the papers and the briefcase, and you said, I want to be an actor full-time.
Yes.
How did your parents take that?
My parents, shout out to my mom and dad. Thank you so much for watching. They were very nervous about it, but very supportive. I think I have Nairobi Half Life to thank a lot for that, because once people are able to see the potential of a decision that you're making, and they can see, you know, he has the skill, he has what it takes, and there's an industry out there that's willing to accommodate that kind of skill, then I left with their blessings. Of course, there's always reminders about, you know, don't you want to start a family? Don't you want to invest and get a mortgage? And I keep assuring them, yes, those are the plans.
Okay, but it seems to me that there's more of a supply than there is a demand, a supply of actors and very few roles that they can play. So how are you making the money? How are you making sure that today I'm going to be visible? Is that difficult?
Yep, it's very difficult in an industry that is crowded with so many good and bad actors and average actors. Yes,
that's very true.
It's very true, because
a good actor puts in the hours. A good actor knows what their craft is about. You know, it's the same thing about asking what's a good architect, a good lawyer, a good doctor, a good news anchor.
Exactly.
What is it about them that makes them stand out?
Okay, so in your opinion, we've been watching the music festivals this week, and we're training our children to be this sort of stage performers, and they're very big in their movements. Is that good acting?
Absolutely, it is amazing acting. That is
the best.
That is how people are supposed to.
I tell you, my lady,
act.
It is the best.
Okay, so obviously you don't think it's the best form of acting. In this country, where would you go to get training? Maybe someone is, you know, watching us from home and they're thinking, I really want to polish my craft so that I am the best in the business.
Well, the best place you can always go, you can go to, what is this county? The one that you have to take an aeroplane and fly out. What is it called? Abroad.
I think it's
called abroad. Yes, that county.
That'd be a good place to start. But if you're unable to do that, I think both Mina and I have been learning. I learned two ways. There was established actors who are there way before I was, and I learned from them by being on the same sets with them, by being on the same stages with them. You'd be surprised how much they have to teach, how much you can learn from them. Yeah.
And how long do you anticipate yourself doing this for? Is this a craft you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? Mugambi, you're giving me a side eye.
Absolutely.
I wanted to become a priest, and here I am.
You wanted
I've
to
never
become
gone
a priest?
back. Yes.
No, let's talk about that. And then what happened?
Then what happened? I saw the light in acting.
No. Are you serious?
I'm very serious. What happened is that I just figured out that this was all performance. I was a mass server, an altar boy. And in a mass, there are costumes, there are lines, there's improv, there's a structure, there's the beginning, the middle, the end. And it's kind of like a ritual. And I just saw it as if it's a performance, and that's it.
Okay.
I decided I was just acting a priest, I was not being a priest.
I like that. You were not acting as a priest in Nairobi Half Life. As a matter of fact, your role was rather controversial.
Yes.
You were portraying a homosexual man living in Nairobi. Did you get a lot of flack for that? Would people stop you and say, okay, and not want to associate with you because of your role? And this goes for you as well. You were a very creepy uncle in Sugar.
Yes.
Yeah, but let's start with Mugambi.
Yes, that's a good question. Fortunately, Kenyan audiences have evolved at an impressive rate. They're able to make that very distinct separation between the actor and the character that they're playing. And one of the questions I like to ask when they ask, you know, don't you think that that's a character that should be looked down on? Why is it that you're going to portray them? I'll ask them two things. One, you wouldn't say the same thing about someone portraying a murderer or a corrupt politician or a president or a dictator who's killed thousands of people. Why is it that suddenly when you're talking about this one person whose crime is their sexual orientation, why are we asking questions?
Then it becomes a big issue. Okay, but it begins conversations. Talking about casting, do you feel like sometimes because you've played this creepy uncle in Sugar and then you were the bad guy in Nairobi Half Life that you're being typecast?
Well, I get that a lot, and I think I'm fine with it.
You're fine with being...
I'm fine
you
with
want
it
to be the bad guy for the rest of your life?
I don't want to. That's what they see.
Okay.
I mean, in my heart, I'm that priest. Into the world, I'm that bad guy.
All right.
Yeah.
If there's a role you could play, somebody came to you and said, here is a script, I want you to play X. What would it be? Mugambi.
Oh, wow. I'd like to play a very conflicted character. I'd want to, like, I don't know if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, for instance.
Oh, goodness. We won't even get into that. Minor, please.
Walter
I
White.
hope your answer is less complicated.
It's not.
It's not.
I would go for a sleazy psycho.
Oh my goodness, there's something wrong with the two of you. There's something seriously wrong with the two of you. And
I know, but we also love snakes and the likes. That's
All right.
why.
Yeah.
Before we get to reading your story, let me give you a test. Let me see how good you are at this whole acting thing. We're going to do a little thing here on KTN Friday Briefing called improvisation. And for about 30 seconds, they have to play whatever I ask them to play.
Okay.
Okay?
Do I have to be seated? Could I stand?
You can sit, you can stand so long as you're still within the confines of the studio. I mean, I don't want you to run off.
Got it.
All right. So, Minor, for 30 seconds, I want you to be Jeff Koinange, and you are an unruly person being interviewed.
Oh.
Go.
My goodness. Amazing. Amazing.
Where's the bathroom?
Oh, the bathroom?
I was told the bathroom was somewhere around here. And my check. I don't show up anywhere without a check.
Okay, fine.
My appearance.
Next, you guys have to be a lot faster than that in terms of developing the characters. Mugambi, you're a vendor on a bus and you're trying to sell this guy some pill that does something and he's really not feeling it.
Okay. Bwana sifiwe sana. I'm not going to resort to my normal job now. Leo nauza tembe.
Ogami sama,
yes,
you can speak in a language that I do understand.
Okay, I will speak to you in English. I am introducing a magic pill.
Okay.
Yes, a magic pill that will give you 15 hours of sleep.
Okay, fine. And then now I want the two of you to be two female anchors who are presenting the news.
Welcome to the Friday Briefing. But this is what they do. Is that what you guys do? Okay. Wait, si usome habari lakini? Sumepewa kazi hapa.
Okay,
sasa nitafanya kazi mimi mwenyewe.
Now sit down. I want the two of you.
Wait,
I really don't know what station this is you're watching. It certainly is not KTN.
Welcome to the Friday Briefing.
Mugambi, please have a seat. Now is when you get to read a proper story and you get to impersonate or rather be embody anchors. And so I want the two of you to face camera 4. That's that one over there. And you're going to split the story. The story is going to roll on the auto cue. Please introduce yourselves. Get rid of the glasses. We don't have props usually.
Right.
There we go. And then read the story.
Good evening. I am Mugambi Ntega.
And Minor, introduce.
And Minor Olwenya.
Now, what men can do, women can do better, the saying goes. But in the fishing beaches of Siaya County, it's not just a question of competition between the sexes. There are also the harsh social and economic realities that have forced many women to take up fishing.
KTN caught up with a group of fisherwomen. Unaenda haraka. Fisher Turudi. Who are giving fishermen a run for economic realities that have forced many women. KTN's Fred Omulo brings us this story.
For centuries, the task of exploiting the lake has been the preserve of men who are expected to brave and benefit from these imposing waters against all odds. Today, that mindset is changing as more women dare to live the life of the region's traditional mariners. The pangs of poverty and sexual exploitation have forced women at Osieko Beach to take on these unforgiving waters.
Sasa inanibidi naamka asubuhi, nenda naanza kuvuta kamba tena narudi. Natengenezeka unatayarisheka ule chai tena naregea kwa kamba. Na kukula kama breakfast inabidi lazima nimalize kazi kwanza ndio nikule kitu kama mpaka saa hizi bado hatujaonja kitu vile tuliamka asubuhi. Hatujaonja chochote.
Many of them use the nearby Obaro Island that is partly in Busia County and neighbors Uganda to chase their daily catch. The 45-minute boat ride from Osieko Beach that often begins in the wee hours of the morning sets the stage for an arduous day in which nets must be spread in the deep and later hauled ashore. Despite all the effort, many of them are lucky to earn 150 shillings each day.
Ndio nafanya kazi kama wanaume ndio pate kidogo, saa nyingine hata ukitoka huko umepata hata shilingi 50 haitoshea hata unga ya 70 yenye unaweza kukula na watoto hakuna. Unarudi hata mboga peke yake kwa bahari siku hizi hakuna. Naingia tu kwa nyumba saa nyingine unalalia hata uji ndio unalalia kikombe moja.
After wading in the waters for 2 or more days, pulling fishing nets in the cold morning and exposing themselves to diseases like bilharzia and pneumonia, these fisherwomen still have to contend with Ugandan soldiers stationed on their side of the lake lest Kenyans encroach their territory where there is an abundance of fish. Despite these challenges, they receive encouragement from all quarters.
Kitu yenye mwanaume anaweza fanya, mwanamke pia anaweza fanya. Wako same job. Anaweza ride hiyo boat, hiyo anaweza ride. Very comfortable.
Yeah. Wanasema kwa Kiingereza ya kwamba what a man can do, a woman can do more better. Yes. So ndio sababu naona ya kwamba wamama nao pia wamejikakamua, hawajaachwa nyuma, wanajaribu pia kutafuta riziki licha ya kwamba ni wanaume wamekuwa wakifanya hii kazi, lakini hao pia wameona ya kwamba wafanye na wapate riziki yao.
While this new twist in the economic relations of fisherfolk may be fraught with dangers, it has temporarily upset the balance of power in which fishermen who came ashore with the day's catch would demand sexual favors from women traders to sell them the produce.
Changing times require a shift in attitude, and the women of Osieko Beach are taking matters into their own hands to address pressing issues. The long-term effects are likely to have implications on gender roles and equality. Fredo Mulo, KTN, Siaya County.
So now, Maina, usually we don't have the luxury to be like, oh, you're moving too fast. You just move with the auto key. How do you think you did?
Oh, terrible. That was terrible.
Honest self-assessment. How do you think you did, Mugambi?
I think I did pretty all right. I know. KTN should probably consider
hiring
you know, hiring.
And I'll be running the auto queue for
Maina,
you.
you have a chance to redeem yourself. On Cam 2, introduce Boni Tunya, who is bringing us the business.
Okay. Next, we are having business news, and this is one man who got the only chance to go to the US-Africa Summit as a business anchor, none other than Boni Tunya.
You actually did well. Very, very good job. 8 out of 10. Well, business is coming up, and the truth is that Kenyans are not drinking as much as they should be. Going by the results posted by East African breweries, I have the details. My name is Boni Tunya. This is business. The East African Breweries has posted a 5% increase in the net profit for its full year ended June 2014. Now, despite challenging business environment in the country, that includes Kenya, Tanzania and Southern Sudan. Now, during that period, the brewer realized 6.85 billion shillings in profit as sales during the year improved. And the firm says it is keen to grow its income beyond the single digit in the coming year. Adelaide Changole has more.
I'm disappointed, though, because it could have been so much better.
It has been a mixed year for East African Breweries Limited. Ironically, after posting a 6% drop in pre-tax profit from the 11.1 billion posted last year to 10.41 billion, the firm managed to raise net profit by 5% from 6.5 billion to 6.8 billion after EABL improved tax efficiency, reducing the effective tax rate from 41% to 34% this year. The 75% reduction in sales volume of Senator Keg saw revenues from Kenya fall 1% during the year. The government introduced a 50% excise tax on the low-end beer in 2013, which saw keg beer prices double, leading to lower sales. Management cut down on the numbers behind the volume-intensive business, leading to retrenchment of 100 employees and costing EABL 1.2 billion in a one-off restructuring. The cost led to a 2% drop in operating profits to 14.67 billion shillings. The group also had a tough time in Tanzania, which delivered flat growth, while political instability experienced in South Sudan also impacted on the brewer's growth. Despite this, the brewer was still able to post a 4% increase in net sales from 59 billion to 61.29 billion, thanks to a strong performance in Uganda, which posted a 13% increase, and growth in mainstream beers such as Tusker, and premium whiskies such as Johnny Walker, which posted single to double-digit growth across Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and other export markets.
I'm pleased that we were able to record growth in top line and bottom line. I'm pleased with the dedication and the efforts of all of the 1,500 or so EABL staff.
EABL announced a 5 shilling and 50 cent dividend for the year, including an interim dividend of 1 shilling and 50 cents. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
The just concluded US-Africa Summit saw local business leaders seek to woo their American counterparts to increase their investment in the East African region. These saw 4 American companies commit to $14 billion private sector investment in the continent within infrastructure, energy, health, and the manufacturing sectors. Companies angling for increased investment in the continent included the Carlyle Group, General Electric, Coca-Cola, among others. Now, at the same time, the business delegation sought to lobby for the extension of the African Growth and Opportunities Act, AGOA, by a further 15 years. Key to the discussions was the lobby for the extension of the third country fabric provision, which is set to expire next year. Its expiry could have a massive impact on the recovery path of Kenya's textile sector. The summit has left Kenya and Africa as a key beneficiary of the renewed trade and development ties with the US, with Americans planning to invest some 3.2 trillion shillings in the continent in the coming days. Moving on, Kenya's energy costs have for years been deemed as an impediment to rapid economic growth. Manufacturers and businesses alike have seen their margins weighed down by the high cost of energy, forcing many to invest in getting off the national grid. Strathmore University is one such institution that is harnessing the energy of the sun, saving the situation and the institution as much as 1.2 million shillings a month using solar energy. Here is KTN's Philip Keitani with more.
The over-reliance of hydropower, which is susceptible to weather changes, has seen dependence on thermal plants for emergency power during droughts increase the cost of power, making Kenya an unreliable destination for investors. It is through this unreliability and the high cost of power that saw Strathmore University become the first fully carbon-neutral university in sub-Saharan Africa by installing a 1-megawatt grid-connected system that is made up of 2,400 solar panels and 30 inverters.
The system we have is whereby we are consuming as we produce. Yeah, and as we grow, then of course the optimal size keep on changing.
Strathmore's journey to green energy kicked off last year at a time it was paying as much as 3.4 million shillings on power monthly for the institution of higher learning. This was not sustainable.
Operating in an environment whereby you cannot pass all the cost to the parents or the sponsors of the students. You have to come up with innovative way of managing the cost.
But due to the high cost of financing the project, the university secured green funds at concessionary rates from the cooperative bank, with the proposed system becoming the first commercially viable grid-connected system in Kenya and the largest in the East African region, meeting the university's annual electricity demand of 1,228 kilowatts.
The first thing that we had to do was to do an audit of all the buildings to ensure that they would carry the load that we are going to put on top of the roofs. That's the panels and the other accessories. So the challenge was to identify which roof was strong enough or weak.
Daily power production is between 2.2 to 2.8 megawatts. That is more than sufficient for the university's needs.
Whenever there is excess power, it goes to the grid, okay? And then there is a sort of a set-off, or Kenya Power pays us for the excess power.
With more companies going off-grid, it sounds an alarm bell to the government to provide affordable power. The government set a 5-year program to add 5,000 megawatts to the national grid, but has been slow off the mark. Philip Keitani, KTN Business.
Amazing things happening at Strathmore University. Elsewhere, the national carrier Kenya Airways will continue flying its West African destinations despite the outbreak of Ebola in the region. KQ, which flies into Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria and Ghana, says it's working closely with the World Health Organization and the International Air Transport Association that has so far downplayed the spread of the deadly virus through the air travel. Now, the airline has moved to have its ground staff, especially in Liberia and Sierra Leone, on high alert to identify passengers who look unwell and check in on board and facilitate immediate review by medical personnel for assistance. IATA is yet to come up with a protocol for airlines flying into the areas where the virus has been reported, but continues to remain vigilant. Right, on that scary Ebola note is where we wind up business today. But here's a look at how the money market performed in the financial market review coming up next. My name is Bonnie Tunya. Good night.
Tonight, I'm Lane Washira, and the bulletin kicks off in Kakamega, where after a 6-year drought, host Kakamega High School's Green Commandos have an opportunity to turn the tables as they face off with Kisumu Day in the boys' finals of the Airtel Rising Stars Secondary Schools Championship set for tomorrow. Giant Slayers Butere Girls will welcome Kaloleni High in the girls category. Francis Ontomo reports from Kakamega.
The Airtel National Secondary School Soccer Championship finals will be more of a local derby after the mighty Kakamega High School's Green Commandos and Kisumu Day Secondary booked their tickets for tomorrow's finals. Host Commandos made an emphatic entry into the finals after seeing off Pasenga High 5-0 in the semi-finals to make a powerful comeback to the finals after a 6-year hiatus. The 10-times national kings will have everything to play for, and the students will bank on the 12th man during the Saturday's finals. Kisumu Day condemned Kadhungi High 3-1 to sail into the last test. In girls soccer, it was an upsetting exit for favourites and defending champions Tartar Girls, who were edged out 1-0 by Butere Girls. In volleyball boys, things did not work for defending champions Hospital Hill, who will now fight it out for third place after a set loss to indomitable Malava boys in the semis. The final piece promises to be exciting as Cheptil prepares a battle of titans against Malava. Cheptil overpowered Abadea's Gadhiga High 3-0 in the other semi-final duel. In girls volleyball, Eastern Kwadhanze girls have an opportunity to defend their title as they welcome Malava in the finals. Kwadhanze silenced AIC Kusirai 3-0, while Malava blinded Tetu girls by the same margin. It is no doubt that new kings and queens will be born here at the National Secondary School Championships. The event has lived to its billing and it's now down to the wire as supremacy battle intensifies. Francis Ontomwa, KTN Sports, Kakamega.
And while the national women's and men's basketball teams have vowed to conquer Africa Zone 5 next month when the regional championships throws off in Kampala, Kenya will be defending the women's title while the men's side will be seeking to better their third place finish in Tanzania. That is if local federations surmount the current financial hurdles.
With a high drive and eagerness to sparkle, the national basketball men's and women's teams are targeting to win the African Zone 5 title. The women's team has been the most successful of the two, having won the last year's edition to qualify for the African Championship, where they finished 10th out of 12 countries. Their eyes are now defending their zone's title. Should the two teams sparkle during the September games, they then qualify for the final round of the matches, where the winners will qualify for the next year's All-African Games.
This time you have assembled a very good team, a very good young team. And definitely, I can assure you that with good preparation, we'll be able to go far.
The men's team, which finished third in last year's, have their work cut out for them. Team captain Ernest Wafula understands how much they have to double their efforts to match the performance of their sisters.
The fact that last year we were number 3 because of poor preparations, this time they want to do it early and bring the championship back home.
But before the zone championship starts on September 21st, the Kenya Basketball Federation has to raise funds to enable these teams to train and also to be able to pay their airfare for the foreign players.
We need to get money for their transport to come for training. We need to get them maybe water during the training. So basically, as we're talking now, the biggest problem we have now is maybe some money.
We need the government to seriously consider sports as something that is really marketing us as a country.
Other teams seeking the Nations Cup and All-African Game qualifiers ticket in Zone 5 include hosts Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, Egypt and Somalia. Moses Wahesi, KTN Sports.
And finally, the 11th edition of the Sports Personality of the Year Award, Soya, has received support from SuperSport and MultiChoice for the 7th year running. The PayTV channel committed 1.5 million shillings. Elsewhere, Eldoret's Kipchoge Keino Stadium will host some of the matches of the Kenya Communication Sports Organization Kikoso Games.
For the first time in many years, Eldoret's Kipchoge Stadium will host some matches. The facility, which has been undergoing renovation, will, together with other tracks in Eldoret, host the 37th edition of the Kikoso Games. Workers at the stadium were busy sprucing up ahead of the kickoff on Saturday, August the 9th. GoTV and SuperSport announced a 3.8 million sponsorship deal for the event. In Nairobi, SuperSport and MultiChoice pumped in another 1.5 million shillings for this year's Sportsman of the Year awards. The annual Soya Awards is a brainchild of former marathon record holder and celebrated king of the cross-country, Paul Tergat. And finally, Ayushi Chandaria, granddaughter of businessman Manu Chandaria, did not get enough time to prepare and qualify for the recent Commonwealth Games in Scotland, but that did not dampen her swimming spirit. Ayushi, who is in the country on holiday, is giving back to the society in a special way. A swimmer in her own right, Ayushi teaches physically challenged swimmers how to swim. Ayushi has taken it upon herself not only to offer swimming lessons, but she also donates appropriate swimming gear to them. She intends to raise money every year to keep the program running.
And that's how we wrap up KTN Sports Night on a day that Didier Drogba retired from international football as far as the Ivory Coast team is concerned after making 104 appearances.
KTN Friday Briefing, we had asked our big question this evening, if you think the governors will succeed in their quest for a referendum. Well, the results are in, and 57% of you think not, while 43% of you are optimistic that indeed it will. Let me just sample a few. Geoffrey Awiti from Twitter says, no, the governors are out to show how superior they are. But Luke Anang Reloaded on Twitter as well says, the governors will make it because they intend to add development funds. Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it. Back with the guest anchors, just about to wind up. So how do you think you did, generally, now after you redeemed yourself?
Well, I feel happy. I feel like a man who should buy a yacht and cause hullabaloo.
And cause some hullabaloo.
There's a sugar cane.
Okay, fine. And as we wind up, my final question, the Kalasha Awards just happened not too long ago. What do you think should be done to both the theatre and film industry in Kenya to make it better than what it is currently?
It's a good thing that you bring up the Kalasha Awards. We definitely saw an award that had improved in the quality of the show. It was something more engaging. I mean, we've had some Kalashas that I would rather not talk about.
Okay.
However, I think, and I need
very
to
quickly,
insist on this.
we have to end up.
I think it should be less popularity and more about an academy that recognizes good work and awards it, because that's how you build an industry.
Do you think we'll ever get to Hollywood status, Maina?
Yes, but we have a long way to go. They started in the 1920s. You were just, properly mature, let's say 10 years now. That's when we've been really active. But we will, slowly.
That's a good place to wind up the show. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you all for watching KTN Friday Briefing. My name is Edith Kimani. You've been briefed.